camera to check technically قبل ما
I
نبلش
started.
Okay,
I started.
perfect.
You can
it's
see
good.
it?
It's
Yes.
good. Okay.
Okay.
So we can all start our camera. The attendees are in. We start with the video and we launch the session. Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All clear.
Yes, I can hear you. Very elaborated background, Youmna. Congratulations.
I'd like to keep it green.
Yeah, exactly. They asked for green background.
Agritech. It goes with the whole Agritech thing. I don't have the heart to remove the Christmas colors. It's
No, keep it.
I feel like, don't we just need it right now? A bit of festivities. It's so gloomy.
Well, actually, we needed less festivities. Would have been better.
We need less festivities?
I mean, it's a past week, and if people had less festivities, we might have been in a better
Oh
place.
no, it's so you can have festivities and be on your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Hania. Wow, we have a good number of participants. So just let me know when you want to start. I know we're starting today the second session of our Agritech Learning Series, and we're starting with the video.
Yes, exactly. We have still some participants joining, so we will start the video in a bit. Okay. Now, most probably. Sorry, seems like we have a technical issue in starting the video. We are retrying.
Welcome to the year of technical issues.
Especially these times.
The motto of the year.
The Zoom life. Or do we have the same attendees as last week, or we have new ones, just so I know?
No, I think we have a lot of new ones.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna entertain you guys with our cool panelists.
Yes.
Happy to see women on the panel. Happy to see that. Hanya, I'm talking about you.
Are you innovating in the agri-food sector and looking for help? Now is your chance to join Berytech's Accelerator program, Agritech.
Our program provides entrepreneurs with the resources, support, knowledge, and funding needed to transform their idea into a sustainable business in less than a year.
During this year, you will be provided with technical guidance to develop your solution in the most cost-effective and efficient way.
In the first phase of the accelerator, you will discover your customers and build a solution for their problems. You'll get trained by leading experts and receive up to $2,000 to set the foundations for your product.
The second phase of the program is probably the most interesting. We will select the most promising startups and help them transform their concepts into reality. For 4 months, you will receive up to $15,000 to develop your first product, test it, and get your first sale.
Phase 3 is the growth and incubation phase. We will help you become investment ready and help you take your idea to the next level with up to $20,000 in matching grants.
We have real challenges that need real solutions in the agri-food sector in Lebanon. This is our opportunity to make a difference. So we are looking for motivated entrepreneurs ready to create, innovate, and lead the change we need in this sector.
Did we get your attention? Then apply to the Agritech program and join Berytech in leading the agri-food revolution in Lebanon and the region.
All right. Can I start? Do I get a yes? Is that a yes? Saha, where are you?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Very happy to see all of you attending from the comfort of your own home, hopefully safe and healthy. To those who missed out on last session, Happy New Year. I'm still saying it because I don't know if time is standing still with COVID. And that's what it feels like most of the time. The series and the session that you're about to hear today is part of a 3-part series. It's called the Agritech Learning Series. And just to let you know that because of the difficult times that the economy is going through, and specifically Lebanon, the focus on the agri-food sector could be the only rescue for Lebanon out of this economic crisis. While a lot of challenges are facing the sector, there are a lot of opportunities. So through these series, we will connect entrepreneurs, innovators, engineers, creative minds such as yourselves with the reality of the agri-food sector. You'll get to learn from the experts. We have 4 esteemed speakers today. I'll introduce them in 1 minute. The sector is suffering from the lack of technology, obviously low efficiency, lack of funds in these very hard and difficult times. One of the challenges that it's facing is also the devaluation of the currency. The consequences of this are constantly being seen in prices. When you're talking about produce, whether it's fruits, vegetables, all related products. We were talking about dairy last week. The production practices are not efficient. The land use is usually not optimal. And so our experts are here to shed light on these problems and maybe really try to find opportunities together. This is a conversation, I always say this is a conversation that we're starting right now, but it keeps going even after it's done, after the 1.5-hour time slot we have. And just to tell you, for everybody who's tuning in, you need to know a little bit about the program. So Berytech came up with a program, the Agritech Accelerator. It's a yearly 3-phase program in which Veritech supports startups with innovations across the sector, offering you resources, knowledge, and the funding to scale up your ideas and grow into an international business that can hopefully have a global impact. At the end of the 3 phases program, startups exit with a validated investment-ready business. So phase 1 is usually a 2-month business validation phase with a grand total of $2,000 per team. They're paying fresh. The capacity building is for up to 24 startups to validate and ensure that, of course, their solutions solve a problem, they're scalable, and that the teams can take on the challenge. Phase 2 is a 4-month business acceleration phase with a grand total of $15,000 per team. This is to support up to 12 startups, right? Because you guys are advancing in phases at this point. You're supposed to build the minimal viable product, test it with early adopters, capacity building to establish the business from a financial point of view. And phase 3 is a 5-month incubation and growth phase with a matching grand total of up to $20,000 per team. This phase, of course, supports up to 8 startups at this point, scaling, including hands-on fundraising support and negotiation, legal term sheets, and market access. The application for this program is open till the end of this month, January 31st. So please go ahead and apply. This is a very exciting opportunities for all young talents, millennials, people who just want to scale up their idea or see their idea come to fruition. If this is for you, please apply. And hopefully you get selected with Berytech and you can embark on this very fruitful journey. I'm going to start by introducing our speakers today. I have lots of questions for these speakers. Our first speaker is Dr. Kanj Hamade, the Assistant Professor of Economics at the Lebanese University. He is an assistant professor of agriculture economics and rural development at the Lebanese University. Using mixed research methods, his research interest focuses on issues pertaining to social exclusion and vulnerable population, rural and refugee livelihoods, market system dynamic, and sustainable local economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Kanj Hamade. Our second speaker is Hanya Shahal. She is a marketing economist. She has around 16 years of professional experience in designing, leading, and implementing different assessments and projects across Lebanon, as well as the region. She's been funded and worked by various donors and international organizations such as USAID, the EU, the UN, among others. She has worked with SMEs, entrepreneurs, and cooperative and business owners across various regions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hanya Shahal. Our third speaker is Charbel. He's a manager at Mashatel, Loubnan. He's an agriculture engineer with a master's in integrated pest management of fruit trees from the Mediterranean Agronomical Institute of Bari, Italy. He is the technical director of Mashatel Loubnan Association, playing many roles in different national committees, providing training in his expertise and consultations for several pioneer fruit tree farmers in Lebanon and abroad. So definitely somebody that you're going to want to talk to after this is over. We're going to have to connect you guys. We're also part of networking here and connecting people. Last but not least is Georgy. Is it Georgy? Really?
Yeah.
Kassab?
Georgy.
So what do they? Here's a question. What should be the if it's Georgy already?
It depends who's doing it.
All right. He's the co-founder at LUXEED Robotics. He says his motto is passion, patience, and perseverance, the 3 Ps. Lucky to have found his passion as a young entrepreneur, Georgy believes this is what he was always meant to do. He currently handles both public relations and sales and marketing as a co-founder of LUXEED Robotics. His background as a mechanical engineer allowed him to have a significant understanding of the technical aspect of LUXEED. We're going to ask him lots of questions today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Georgy. I like that we have a full, what I like to call a full room. Not that Zoom is the perfect place for this, really hoping that this ends soon, hopefully in a healthy way, and we can all resume meeting and networking together. But please, just to tell you before this session starts, don't allow this to stop you from reaching out to our speakers or asking them questions. I will be taking questions from the audience, so you can type it for me and we will be taking questions for our speakers. My first question, and I want this to be, I want to put it out there for all of you speakers and whoever wants to take it is, in 2020, we're noticing a growing interest in agriculture. We used to think about imports because that was the basic thing that Lebanon was doing. Unfortunately, not really taking advantage of the agricultural system that we have. Even hobbyists started growing their own crops, and many campaigns took place to encourage people to farm. Is it a coping mechanism, or is it a change in the mindset that will reshape the sector? And I'm throwing this to you, so whoever wants to take this on, please go ahead. But not all at the same time. Okay, please unmute your microphones.
I don't mind.
Dr. Kanj, yes, please.
I don't mind jumping first. Let's talk about which trend really. Anna, I would define 3 key trends that happened starting 2011, which are mostly positive trend, kind of fueled by the positive aspect on the sector from the Syrian crisis. And I do believe personally that the Syrian crisis for the agricultural sector has created a positive dynamic, either locally without intervention of international donors and projects, but also by project. We had 3 positive trends. The first trend, and Charbel here is a leader in this first trend, which was the kind of restructuring of the fruit tree systems that we have, engaging in apple and cherries and other fruit trees in renewing orchards, investing in new orchards, looking at tropical system of avocado and citrus and trying to restructure the system. And it was a positive trend of averagely younger people investing. We had the trend of a positive trend of investment in greenhouse and small vegetable production, which were very focused on Syrian labor, on smallholders, on vulnerable population working to produce for local food and local vegetables. And we had a great trend of technology and innovation that was pushed by initiatives like Berytech, but also by other initiatives here and there that was focused on looking at technology as a key element of a changing trend. Today, what happened with the crisis is a very risky and dangerous, I would say, and put us in front of a lot of challenges, because the crisis basically has stopped the growth and the capacity of investment in those three trends. So the idea now is, and I don't want to monopolize the question, so I will be brief, is how can the crisis really, how can we cope with the fact that the country has lost its saving? Well, because what happened with the crisis is, like, if you are a household and you have saving aside and you have just lost them. When you lost your saving, when the country lost its saving, it's lost its capacity to invest. Because we lost our capacity to invest, how to invest in fruit orchard, how to invest in technology, and how to invest in greenhouses. And I think this is part of what will be the challenges for the coming day. We need money. Where is this money going to come from, and how are we going to be able to invest to keep these good trends that were present in the past? I tend to see export, and we will have time to discuss that as a development trap that we should not fully fall in. And I do see technology and smallholders and legal reform as a path forward. But we can discuss that later.
Okay. You know, it's interesting, Kanj, because, you know, you mentioned technology, and you mentioned how, you know, we do have these challenges, but with the technology, hopefully we can overcome them. But yeah, and, you know, maybe Hanya, you can jump in. But, you know, but it's also been a change of mindset, right? Because people have had to adapt to the current situation that Lebanon is facing, even with this technology and the fact that we have this.
I mean, I do sometimes, I do share with Kanj that there's always an opportunity in every, you know, bad situation, or in every crisis. The opportunity is that I don't think that there was a change in mindset as much as there was awareness, shedding light on the agriculture sector, that yes, this is a sector, oh no, we need to look at it because it's vital, and it's going to affect us all, not just only like a certain, let's say, category of population. It's going to affect us all. I would say the coping was kind of like short-lived. I mean, we have those like hobbyists, okay, let's try to plant, let's try to see everything. But then not everybody has the experience. So, you know, I mean, the farmer, it's his job to be a farmer, and, you know, and he is planting, he's cultivating. There were others that tried to, but it was kind of like short-lived. It remained on a small scale, and it was more of a trial, let's see. But the good thing is that it really increased awareness on the importance of the agriculture sector and the potential that agriculture sector holds. But at the same time, how it is actually interconnected with other sectors. So it's not, we're not like just looking at agriculture as agriculture sector by itself, isolated, no, but it encompasses all other sectors as well. So this is also what really shed light on, you know, it's like increased awareness. People are, and also like, oh, wow, we have lands. How can we make use of it? Whether this has led to anything or not, but at least it started thinking in that direction. So these would be kind of like the two things where I saw as a really a trend, let's say, but also an opportunity in that thing.
I love how you use the word opportunity, which is really, you know, right now it's all about finding opportunities for the agricultural sector. But is it only a problem of access to finance, or, you know, even though Dr. Kanj said there were technology and now we're able to advance, there's still a lot of challenges that lies ahead. So what is the problem of access? I'd love to hear from Charbel or Georgy. Charbel, we haven't heard you today. Are you hiding from us?
No, I'm ready. Sorry, can I speak in Arabic? Maybe I can express myself.
أكيد ولو تفضل.
Okay. أول شيء أنا بحب أعطي فكرة دقيقة بما خص هالأزمة الدقيقة لها أثر على القطاع الزراعي. اللي بيقدروا يقولوا وأكدوا إنه هذه الأزمة بالحد ذاتها الاقتصادية كان لها المحفز نحو الزراعة. يعني في كثير من العالم توجهت بطريقة أو بأخرى نحو الزراعة، خاصة بعد ما أنه قطاع الخدماتي توقف. يعني ما عاد عندنا عمل كتير قوي بالقطاع الخدماتي يلي هي المصارف والسياحة وغيره، والكوفيد أكيد 19 كان لها أثر كمان كتير كبير، وبالتالي قسم كتير كبير من المتمولين هون راحوا توجهوا نحو القطاع الزراعي وبلشوا. مش عم بحكي بس على صعيد البيئة الصغيرة انه بلش صار في محفزات انه المزارعين الصغار او كل شخص يزرع حد بيته، لا عم بحكي حقيقة توجه كتير كبير نحو الزراعة. وانا بقدر هالشيء من خلال المبيعات تبع الشكول اللي صارت عندنا على صعيد المشاتل، وهلا بقدر احكي عنها بشكل مفصل. بقدر اكد حقيقه كان السنه يمكن من افضل السنين واكثر السنين اللي العالم هجمت هجمه بشكل رهيب. ولكن انا اللي بحب اكده انه هذه الهجمه العشوائيه شوي لازم تبقى منظمه. يعني نحن لازم نستفيد من هالهجمه اللي عم الفايتة فيها العالم على الزراعه، لحتى حقيقه نرجع نعمل نوع من خطه مبرمجه او ممنهجه للزراعه بلبنان. بفتكر هون الان جي اوز وغيرهم كان لهم دور مهم بوضع اطر معينه، ولكن هي الشغله لازم تكون على صعيد اكبر، على صعيد يمكن محفزات تاتي مباشره من الدوله، من الجفرمنت، من الحكومه للمزارعين اللي حابين يستثمروا بالزراعه. لانه انا عم حس انه حقيقه في هجمه كثير كبيره، المزارع حس انه حتى المستثمرين بكافه القطاعات بلش صار عنده نوع من احساس انه كافه القطاعات الخدماتيه هي منا الاساس لاقتصاد راكز ومستدام. اما الاقتصاد القوي اللي ممكن نحن نرتكز عليه هو بشكل اساسي الاقتصاد الذي يعتمد على الزراعه، على الصناعه، على القطاعات الانتاجيه. وهذا اللي نحن اكثر شيء قدرنا نلاحظه من خلال هالازمه بشكل خاص.
عم نحكي عن yeah, please, does anybody want to add something? Charbel, do you want to add something?
No, it's okay.
Sorry, Charbel, no, Georgy, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to add something. I think after interviewing many farmers, I think that access to finance is now the elephant in the room because of the hyperinflation. But the elephant cannot blind us from other problems that are already chronic in the Lebanese agri sector. There is already a corruption and malpractices in agriculture. For example, many crops are being sold as organic for higher prices, although they are not really organic. And many farmers are spraying pesticides without being educated about the amounts needed. And instead of using machinery, they are taking advantage of the cheap manual labor available, although it's not reliable. So
desperate times call for desperate measures. It's very sad to hear this. And Charbel, I'm going to talk in English, but فيك تجاوب بالعربي بس you know, this problem that we have of corruption, you know, we don't talk about it enough. We talk about obviously the inflation, the devaluation of the local currency, but corruption and the limited focus of the government when it comes to the agri sector is also a problem. And I guess this is why you said that NGOs play a role and really trying to make people aware, as Hania was saying. So my question to you is, okay, and Georgy, you know what you're saying is alarming, because you're basically telling us, and we've known this for a while, that we're not eating what we're supposed to be eating, and we're not paying for what we're supposed to be getting. And that's a big problem, because it removes the credibility of the agri sector and the trust that people will have in it. Already, people already don't have trust in a lot of sectors in the country. And the agri sector now is the one that all eyes are on, because there is hope that this is going to turn the economy around. Farmers are not able to procure enough money to plant their lands, and microfinancing of the agri sector is very limited. How can we solve this problem? You know, Georgy, let's start with you. You know, what do you see as a solution, a possible solution to try to make the situation better?
Well, I think we should build trust at first. The government.
How do you build trust? How do you build trust?
We should start with a new government, maybe. And seriously, so that's a major problem. Yeah, it is.
It's unbelievable for all the attendees. Welcome to our country, but hopefully without the CAC, we can get somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks to big companies like Berytech, they're investing in new technologies, in new startups. There's big companies like Robinson, like Debene, Uniford. They are following up with farmers. They're keeping them doing the right things that they should do. They're following up on them. But you know, now it's like kind of filtene shway. So that's the major problem. But I think that we're gonna reach a point that everything is gonna go back in order, you know. So
yeah, so I mean, I hope so. Does anybody want to come in and talk about that, the possible solution? Yes, Dr. Kanj, please.
Yeah, I don't want to sound a little bit, you know, old school, but I believe that actually everything is on the political matter, in the sense that all this corruption Georgy was talking about, all this lack of ability to access finance, to access services, or use over pesticide is part of a bad governance of the overall value chain, and it's primarily the responsibility of the regulators and the policy maker to make sure that things are done. And it's a little bit what is my comment, and I will move on what can be the solution. It's also a little bit my take on the idea of the trend and people going back to agriculture, because it had this feeling that people are responsible of solving these problems, as if this problem was coming from a weather storm or was coming from an act of God that were not that we don't know who is responsible for. But in reality, we kept people that are responsible are the people in charge and of bad management of all the financial sector and also the agriculture and productive sector. So the solution need to come as part of an overall reform process in which agriculture is part of it, but not presented as the solution and the responsible, because the responsible people are the ones that need to set an overall policy. That's for in regard of, no, the solution should not come from the people only, but it's also come from policymaker and government and public institution.
Right, but if Dr. Kanj, allow me to interrupt you for a second, but if that is not going to happen within the next year, which is a critical year, what, you know?
And what is not going to happen, and I tend to see that what's going not to happen is reinforcing a process in which people who have access to resources, people who have the capacity to invest for export, for example, people who have the capacity to invest in large production and also to invest in machinery, will take opportunities to set up a kind of agriculture that is export oriented and use the local resources to send the export. And the problem with an export oriented agriculture of that type, when the policymaker do not step in, is that we replicate what we have done in the 50s and 60s, which is an export-oriented agriculture that do little in terms of local development and do a lot in terms of people who take benefit of this agriculture. So there is a risk of supporting an export-oriented and private endeavor only that is not regulated by public actors or by public institution or by institution that might also be private, but that do look at the side. Anna, in terms of solution, what I think, and we cannot, I personally, and again, not to sound like old school and to be also straight to the point, for the short term, we need subsidies. There is no way that small farmers will bear with what's going on without being supported by direct cash transfer, at least this year and maybe the next year. That I think is an important element. Second important element is the in-depth reform of the sector, focusing on what is really the driver for growth in our country, which is technology. And I'm not saying this because I am in Berytech webinar, but this is very something I believe is key. If our next process is going to support the export and development and growth, but also local development, it needs to be based on technology transfer and on youth being able to come in and to step in there. The second element that needs to be done is the reform of the agricultural financing system, because and mutual support, because we do have legislation and institutional framework for agricultural financing cooperative. For agricultural financing, we do have also a framework and a legal framework for mutual funds between farmers, and we do have actually a legal framework for equity investment and investment funds. So we need to move in parallel in all those elements. First, subsidy, because without subsidy we're going to not to be doing fine, and some programs are providing subsidies. Two, a reform of the mutual fund and the cooperative systems and the financing of agriculture that can be made. Three, support to some kind of private equity fund or investment fund that would, within the period where the state is not able and the banking sector is not able to step in, this investment fund and equity fund could help medium and large and also innovative sectors to be able to invest and to move. I do believe, and this will be my last sentence for this, that a crisis is always an opportunity, and this is
right.
One, I forgot who said that, but basically that is a crisis is not would be should not waste the opportunity of a crisis in that. So I think we can do a lot. But also in an approach that is not only on the entrepreneur and private sector, but who tells people what are their responsibility and what they should do in reforming the institutions and the policies.
I'd like to add something.
Please go ahead.
I mean, I am.
Did it cut?
Be purely, to be purely reliant or dependent on export and to have an export-oriented production, while we're not really focusing also on while it's not contributing to local economic development, yes, this is not really let's say, the magic formula. But I mean, export is not really a bad thing. But the thing is, what we really need is why we need the policymakers, because they are the ones that should really ensure that there's a balance between the local economic development and the export. At the same time, we are a country where we are really in a region that, okay, it's experiencing lots of uprisings and chaos and everything, but at the same time, it's a region that is also closer to other regions where we could also exploit markets and engage in export. But export also requires internal development. It requires planning. We are not really yet a country that is purely export oriented. To be export oriented, you need to have at least a good infrastructure. You need to have a strong logistics. You need to also have a mechanism for complying with the standards, and you need more than before, because of climate change, because of everything. We need to have responsible businesses. So this is not something that could be done just, okay, yalla, let's go and let's export and no. It has to involve several things. It has to involve planning, and planning is what we lacking all through the sector. At the same time, to recognize it's not just any sector, it's an agriculture sector where even globally, because of the COVID crisis, it remained the only sector that experienced growth, because of the demand on food. But we need steps for that. And this is where also investment can. So it's not about just investing in production, it's about the whole process that is needed there.
I like that you said that, because I'm going to just start talking about the interventions from our audience. Nicolas Rolam saying, why is export a development trap? Referring to you, Dr. Kanj, this idea that yes, one second.
I will take two quick examples.
One second, because as Hanya was saying, it's not a completely viable solution to fully rely on exports and not think about the local issues and the fact that local needs it more so now. And then I'll move on to the next. Please go ahead, and then I'll move on to the next interventions.
Two quick examples. Let's say the example that today someone living in Dubai, Lebanese person with some money aside, discovered an opportunity to produce small grains and to export them. He will come with his fresh dollar, use cheap labor, put the installation, invest in small green, and start exporting them. He will get paid as well. He will pay the Lebanese worker in Lebanese pound at the or the Syrian worker at the known rate of everybody knows of 2,000 lira per hour. He will produce the greenhouse using the competitiveness of the cheap labor, and he will get paid in dollar where back into his Emirati bank account. So basically, the process of this export oriented within the system of a crisis of the financial sector is reading back all the money that can be benefited to be reinvested in the rural sector back into Emirati banks or Swiss banks or even like Cyprus bank or Jordanian banks. If I do in the other way, work in technological improvement for efficiency with the farmer, I provide him with technical support to produce small greens through better technology, through helping the farmer in direct investment. I can improve his skills, I can improve method of production, and I can ensure that the export money is back into the system and not going somewhere else. But by focusing on technology, I do both. I do export, and I do also support local producers in improving skills and improving method of production for the local market and improve my agriculture. The real trap of export is labor is cheap. Syrian refugee take 2,000 lira an hour. I can use this to come and invest and go away. This is a development trap. The other path, which should be based on smallholders, cooperation inside the value chain, a structure that allow for good access to post-harvest services, good extension services, and working into improving the skills of the people through technology and improvement is a better path for the development. In the first one, 5 years from now, things will get better, and basically it will stay the same for people living in the rural area. The second path, built on technology and institutional reform, would allow that we do really take the opportunity of the crisis for a better development.
I mean, you know, a lot of it is a focus on policy making. Not enough is being said on the innovation needed. So I want any of our speakers to come in and talk about that if it's something that you feel you can contribute about. And then I want to keep going on with interventions from our attendees. The innovation needed to move forward. Charbel, Hanya, Georgy.
I mean, I can say the innovation, it's not just in one field. Say, okay, yeah, let's do innovation and let's go, let's say hydroponics, or let's go. I mean, it's not about, like what Kanj said, it's not just technology to advance and to expand, but innovation in the process, innovation in the thinking also. This is what we need right now. Okay, so I mean, it's really thinking outside the box, but it's just not just thinking to solve a local problem, but I mean, we are a developing country, but there are so many other developing countries as well, and they did really solve some of their crises. So it's good also to check what they have done before we do this innovation. Again, and when I say about innovation, it also, for example, encompasses within the value chain. You know, so when I say, for example, let's say post-harvest, there is innovation in the post-harvest. I mean, we are looking into solutions. There is technology out there, but there is technology for large scale. Now, where is the innovation in actually trying to find solutions for the small scale holders also, and see really how they can make use of such technology in order to improve the situation and slowly strengthen these processes along the value chains. This is what I'm referring to.
Right. Does anybody want to add anything? I want to take a question from Georgie. Do you want to say something?
أنا كنت بدي زيد شغلة صغيرة.
إيه شربل تفضل.
هلا لا شك إنه الانوفيشن هي شغلة أساسية وضرورية لحتى نقدر أول شيء نصدر الإنتاج تبعنا وغيره، لحتى نكون على ستاندرد نقدر fulfill all standard international standards for export. بس في شغلات كمان كتير مهمة وأساسية نحن لازم نبلش فيها حاليا، لأنه بالنتيجة الزراعة مكملة والمزارع موجود، ونحن رح نوصل لمرحلة إذا ما شعنا له وسائل لحتى يقطع هالمرحلة تكنا ركبة البوليسيس وإلى آخره، شغلة طويلة الأمد. فانا اللي بعتبره هي ودكتور كانش حكي عنها السبسيديز او دعم المزارع خاصه صغار المزارعين، هي شغله اساسيه وضروريه جدا 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 لحتى هالمزارع يقدر يامن المستلزمات الضروريه والاساسيه. يعني ما عم نحكي عن مستلزمات بلا طعمه، ولكن المستلزمات الضروريه والاساسيه لحتى يقدر يكمل الانتاج تبعه. وبالتالي ونحن كمان انا برايي التوجه بفتكر نحن لازم نروح بتوجه معين نحو هالزراعه. بعض المستلزمات الزراعيه نحن لازم نبلش نتجه عنها ونشتغل عليها لحتى نوصلها للمزارع بكلفه اقل. واساسا المزارع حاليا بلش يتحول وبلش يفتش عن كيف بيقدر يأمن المستلزمات الزراعيه تبعه من السوق المحلي اذا كان في امكانيه لانتاج هالمستلزمات الزراعيه. وهون بشدد مثلا نحن شو بيمنعنا انه ننتج بدار البطاطا اللي هي شغله NGOs اذا وجهوا نحو هالاشياء ممكن نقدر ننتج بدار البطاطا بدل ما نستورده من الخارج.
اوكي طيب
طول الفريز، انتاج، هذه كلها مستلزمات زراعيه. الاستثمار بشكل اكبر شطول الاشجار المثمره، هذا كذلك الامر رح يخلي. رح اعطي مثل كثير صغير على هالنطاق.
تفضل.
اي شتله بدنا نشتريها من الخارج اكيد رح تكلفنا حاليا. هاي مستلزمات بالنتيجه اي مزارع بده ياسس بستان اشجار مثمره بيعرف انه كل شتله بده يجيبها من الخارج رح تكلفه اقله 6 أو 7 دولار عم يدفعون كاش ماني بالدولار. بوقت نحن كمشاتل قدرنا وكرمال هيك كانت هالهجمه الكبيره انه قدرنا نحافظ على سعر مقبول يلي هو يعادل حوالي 10,000 ليرة اللي هو دولار وربع. يعني بنشوف الفرق الكبير بين لما بتقدر تأمني له للمزارع مستلزمات زراعية مدعومة. هيدي شغلة وقديه نحن بنقدر نشتغل كان بدعم مباشر مادي أو بدعم المستلزمات الزراعية من أسمدة وغيرهم واي نوع ومبيدات زراعيه وغيرهم. هي شغله كثير مهمه وكثير اساسيه للمزارع تيقدر يكفي او يقطع هالمرحله الصعبه. وهون برجع بشدد انه المتضررين الاكبر هن صغار المزارعين، مش الجرون انتربرونور. يعني صغار المزارعين هن المتضررين بشكل اساسي وبشكل اكبر، لانه هن الاساس اللي ما عندهم السيوله اللازمه والكافيه لحتى يامنوا المستلزمات الزراعيه.
Georgy, you want to say something?
Yes. So technology can help them become more sustainable, can help the farmers become more sustainable. Like, for example, it can reduce their costs like irrigation, fertilizers, pesticides, with the data that we can gather on their fields. So mainly it can help them increase their yield. But at the moment, I don't want to sound negative because I'm an optimistic person, but farmers need financial support from the government before even thinking about new technologies to sustain the sector. So if the hyperinflation didn't occur, we'd be having a different conversation right now.
I want to start taking interjections from the audience and just want to ask you, the speakers, because I think part of also Berytech organizing this is being able to have members of our audience connect with you afterwards. So if are you all okay with that? Because it would be Charbel, Hanya, Kanj, Georgy, is that okay? Because they're asking for your numbers and so maybe email is the best. I'll make sure that for all our attendees, I'll make sure the emails and the contact info is there. I just want to take a few questions from the audience because, you know, it seems to be a repetitive theme today, but do you think that if private investors lobby or form coalitions, we can get over export challenges? Who wants to take this question from Karine Eltif?
I mean, there's always, it's a double-edged sword, you know. Okay, so there's always, I mean, with the country and how the country was performing over the years, it's always the private sector that is driving. But at the same time, it was always the private sector that's driving growth at the expense of other stuff. So what kind of private sector that can lobby for that, you know? And this is the question. And then the second thing is that, okay, yes, they lobby, but they lobby for what? For export, for more export. Then this comes at the expense of the smallholders, and this comes also at the expense of the local economic development if we are in the current status. So there's always a double-edged sword. But listen, what we really need, we do need cooperation of the private sector and the public sector as well. We do need something like the public-private partnerships. We do need that, but we need a vision, we need a plan just before anything else. This is what we need for the agriculture sector. It has remained traditional, it has remained kind of like, oh no, we don't want to go there. But this is not the case. This is a very, very important sector, and it has lots of potential, especially for the rural areas. So unless we do share a common vision between both sectors, we're not able to move anywhere. This is my opinion.
All right. I want to take a question from Fadime Ati asking, to what extent are the farmers ready for equity credit funding? What are the challenges in this part? And do we have any initiatives or programs that generate solutions for this?
I will take Fadi's question if you don't mind. Let's turn the question otherwise. Are the banks ready to finance anyone? Are private equity ready to finance farmers? It's a little bit of the other way around. And the reality, farmers were taking credit all the time. Farmers do work on credit. One of the problems we have today is that farmers are not working on credit. They cannot access credit. And the other thing is, from who did they get the credit before? They used to get it from input supplier at very high hidden interest rate, and they used to take it from trader at very high interest rate. And when you ask farmer, they would tell you, I know I'm taking credit, I know it, I'm paying more, but this guy trusts me. This guy is here. When the input supplier person, as much as nahna as experts, sometimes we don't like the input supplier, but when the farmers need the input supplier person, he is here, he is there, he can help him right away. He needs some money to buy a pesticide, he will be there. And the problem is that the bank and the equity investor are not there in presence and supporting the farmers. And this is why, in a certain way, we do have this mistrust of between banking and farmers. Farmers really need, in the absence of extension services, in the absence of support program for small and medium-sized farmers, the input supplier is just the guy who is here when we need him, or the woman, of course, that is here when we need her, and we know or when we need him. And this has created this relation. What we should do in order to be able to set up this credit is maybe find a kind of a proper agricultural funding system, a specialized fund between banks, specialized if banks are going to give credit anymore anytime soon, or between investors, have a specialized form of agricultural credit that do understand how farmers are work and are present with the farmers at proximity when they do need them. And those are agricultural credit cooperatives, or are also non-agricultural, but mostly any type, non-cooperative, sorry, but any type of socially responsible agricultural funding system. Because for the time being, I'm not sure you can ask the bank and to say, deal with your balance sheet crisis. And at the
I don't think you can ask the bank anything at the moment. Yeah, I mean, and I think this is why, going back to what a lot of you were saying, our panelists, is that this idea that the government can step in and help, it just seems like a very far-fetched idea currently, because obviously this is why there are programs such as Berytech and maybe other collaborations, maybe with the private sector, where there could be programs and investments made to the agri sector that could hopefully make people more aware and do the right thing. You know, it's interesting. There's a question here from Pierre Fignano saying he has no experience in agriculture or farming, but he's interested in investing in the industry, and specifically in hydroponic systems. Do you recommend it? Do you recommend he invests, having I love how you're all smiling. Tell me what this smile is about. Look at you all smiling.
أنا رح آخذ الجواب إذا بقدر أعطي الجواب رح آخذ.
تفضل.
أول شغلة هذا أنا كنت عم بحكي عنه إنه كثير من الأشخاص اللي كانوا يشتغلوا بقطاعات مختلفة بعيدين عن الزراعة مش مزارعين توجهوا بشكل رهيب على الزراعة. ولكن للأسف كانت همروجة عشوائية هي اللي حكيته كانت الدخلة على الزراعة بشكل عشوائي وبالتالي أنا برأيي كثير من المشاريع الزراعية ومن المتمولين اللي استثمروا بالزراعة بطريقة عشوائية رح يكون عندهم مشاكل كان بالمشاريع الزراعية رح تكون مشاريع غير اقتصادية غير مجدية رح يصير في عندهم مشاكل كتير كبيرة بالإنتاج وبالنوعية وإلى آخره ويمكن هي مشاريع غير مناسبة للمناطق اللي قاموا فيها. فأنا كرمال هيك أنا بحب شدد لا شك إنه الهيدروبونكس as intensive production رح تعطينا نتيجة جيدة ومهمة ولكن الرجوع إلى الأخصائيين بهالموضوع هي الأساس وبالتالي الأخصائيين وأنا مش بحكي عن حتى أخصائيين عموميين بالزراعة المتخصصين بالهيدروبونكس لحتى يشتغلوا على تنظيم مشروع زراعي ناجح بيقدر يعطيه نوع من feasibility study للحابب يستثمر مضبوطه قداي بدها تكلفه قداي بده يكلفوا هالمشروع اي متى ببلش يدخل بالانتاج قداي سرعه الانتاجيه تبعه قداي كميه الانتاج وبالتالي بتبقى الامور واضحه ساعتها عند هالشخص اللي بده يستثمر. فكرمال هيك انا بقول من منيحه الهيدروبونكس بشرط نبقى عم نشتغلها بشكل جيد نتعامل مع الاخصائيين بالموضوع.
طلال درويش بيرجع لانه كان عم يسمعك عم يحكي. He says there are less costly hydropic structures on the market, not necessarily go towards the most expensive systems. Expert opinion and support is a must.
Exactly. I fully agree with that.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you for that, Talal. Yeah.
No, I would add, first of all, I mean, yes, hydroponics is a kind of like a modern and it has also its advantages in terms of saving on the, let's say, the resources in terms of water. But at the same time, let's also look at the market. I mean, you're going to produce hydroponics at what price? Are you going to cover your investment? At the same time, if you're going to sell locally, we're not having as much. I mean, just look at the trend and the crisis. If we look at the crisis right now, and in terms of the purchasing power that has dropped. So who is your target really? And I mean, are they willing to pay that price for their vegetables and for their consumption as well in terms of volume? So it is also, I mean, market is finding a good market and finding a sustainable market is also a very important issue before we look at the technology.
Yeah, go ahead. And then Hanya, to go back to what you're saying is, Yara, as Saruh was saying, yes, but could, do you think hydroponic could be competitive? Could Lebanon compete in this market?
Compete what? Compete in terms of what? I mean, this is the thing. It's like you need to, before you do, and this is also, I mean, this is one of the challenges that the agriculture sector has. It's in terms of access to markets. And what we say when we say in terms of access to market, it's also utilizing technology to identify what the market demand is. What are the varieties that are requested, whether you want the local, you want to target the local market or the export market as well. And at the same time, it's about pricing. It's about, I mean, at what cost does all of this come? And are you able to have a profitable business because of that? This is the things that I look at when I want to invest in anything.
And to add on Hanya's comment,
go ahead.
The problem in hydroponics is that it's limited to few crops like lettuce or such a crops like these. So that's the problem. Yeah, we should look at sustainability and something that is affordable for consumers.
Let me if I
but I wanna interject because we have a lot of questions. Everybody's very interested in what you're saying, and we want to try to make it a little more positive. I know it's difficult to do that, but it all seems so gloomy on this bad weather day. So I just want to bring it a little bit to the basics here. Hussein Mtairik, I hope I'm saying this right, is asking a very interesting question that I was thinking about. So thank you for asking this. Dear panelists, we know one of the main problems today in the agricultural sector is the traditional mentality of the farmers, which is an obstacle to cause which is an obstacle to development in farming and cultivation. What is the solution that you suggest in order to change the mentality?
I do not. I wouldn't agree.
Go ahead, because you started by saying what I'm going to say is old-fashioned. Now you're saying you don't agree. So go ahead.
Old-fashioned.
Go ahead.
I'm old-fashioned, and I assume it.
Yeah, go. Of course, yes. I mean, the country still is developing, right?
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't. It's again the blame on the weakest link in a way, and I'm sure Hassan do not mean it, but it's this tendency to blame the weakest link all the time. Farmers do not want to change. No, it's not true. Farmers would like to change, but farmers are kept marginalized from processes of development. This is because the export development process of the 50s marginalized small farmers, because access to credit marginalized small farmers and prioritized like the kafalat free option, prioritized medium-sized farmers, part-time farmers who have other jobs. Hopefully the technology process will not marginalize farmers, the one that Berytech is leading, but there is a risk always that this type of farmers are being kept aside of the development process. So I would say farmers do not have a traditional mentality and refuse to change. Farmers do not have supporting processes that help them go through their decision about change. They need to be supported by a market that is fair competition. They need to be supported by fair wholesale market that do reward them on their quality process. They do need to be supported by post-harvest structure that are not monopolized by big traders. They need to be supported by public institutions that support their cooperative and organization skills. They need to be supported by municipality that allow them to use farmers market, and so on and so forth. And the list doesn't change. These people are marginalized and are left aside. This is why when you talk to them, they might have an old tradition. I don't want to change. I want to be safe in what I do, because what I change when you're asking me to go is risky, and I'm going to people who do not like me and who are working most.
No, but Dr. Kanj, maybe it's also, and I don't know if Hussein meant this or not, but maybe it's also because of a traditional way of doing things.
Exactly. So farmers take decision not individually, they take decision because they are part of an institutional settings that include the state, the market, and the private sector. When the state, the market, and the private and the farmer association are able to actually put a setting in which farmers can make a choice, and this choice is guided by proper institutions, they will stop being traditional. I mean, that they will tell their children, come take my place because there is an opportunity here. So to stop the traditional mentality of farmer, if you assume there is one, we need to support institutions and to provide them with the help needed around that.
Let me just move on, because we have more questions. They want to learn from you and they want to connect with you. Hadi Kiwan is asking you, Charbel, you mentioned the feasibility study, which is the first and most important step to any startup, to start up any investment. Can you please advise if there is any reliable organization or office that can help in providing a real and good study?
For sure, even agricultural engineers that works in the sector, يعني حتى المهندسين الزراعيين عم يشتغلوا بالسيكتور بيبقى عندهم فكرة، وحتى هن بيبقى عندهم مشاريع زراعية already they have the experience, so they keep يعني هن مسكين دفاتر وبيعرفوا 100% أول شيء كلفة التأسيس، الانفستمنت initial investment للتأسيس، بيعرفوا الإنتاجية داخل الخيمه، وبيعرفوا بالوقت ذاته الماركتس الاساسيين، تارجت ماركتس، وقداي عم تكون المبيعات، وبناء عليه قادرين يعطوا اي مهندس زراعي خبير بالهيدروبونكس وشاغل بشكل مستدام بالهيدروبونكس قادر يفيده وقادر يعمل له الدراسه الكامله المتعلقه باي مشروع هيدروبونيك. وانا على فكره برجع باكد بالنتيجه انت بالهيدروبونكس عم تنجي المحاصيل ذاتها، ولكن باوقات انت ساعه بدك فيك تفوتي تتحكم بالسوق، يعني بتقدري تدخلي على الاسواق بفترات مختلفه، لانه انت قادر تتحكمي بالمايكرو كلايمت داخل الخيمه، وهذه شغله كثير مهمه. معناتها نحن قادرين ندخل الاسواق تبعنا بفترات ممكن يبقى عندنا جاب بالانتاج، وهذا بيعمل لنا مصاري زياده. يعني نحن بدنا نفهم انه الزراعه كمان هي نيش ماركت، وهي فترات قادرين ندخل فيها على السوق ونعمل مصاري اكثر من فترات ثانيه.
I hope that answers your question, Hadi. There seems to be a lot of questions when it comes to the funding, and I think this is an important thing because of all the challenges that include awareness and technology and being able to collaborate to get to move forward in the agri sector. I think one of the biggest one in this country, and the one we started talking about, is funding. Charbel Hanya is asking, from your experience with the absence of banking services and the inability of input suppliers to provide letters of credit, the reluctance in internal investments, either to inability or tendency of exporters to avoid using their fresh currency, how are the farmers dealing with access to input? Thank you for that question, Charbel.
أنا اوريدي كنت أعطيت بفتكر جواب لهالموضوع، وقلت الشغلة الأساسية بظل عدم وجود access to finance، ما في إلا عملية دعم من خلال أي مؤسسات خارجية للمزارع، خاصة للمزارعين الصغار أو صغار المزارعين. بفتكر ما ضروري يكون دعم مباشر مادي، دعم أقله المستلزمات الزراعية الأساسية.
طيب شاربل، أنا بدي أزيد على هالسؤال. أوكي، so في دعم من برا، right? So this is what you're saying, إنه one of the possible solutions, right?
شيء مؤقت يعني، شيء ما
أوكي، إيه أكيد إنه لحديد ما البلد يرجع، maybe، بس a majority, and this is something I want to add, is a majority of small farmers have limited lands, for example, and they're not financially skilled, the farmers. They don't know how to manage their cash flow, their stock, and their cost or price. So who is helping these farmers cope with the situation? What's your answer to that?
أنا رح أقول لك شغلة كتير مهمة وأنا اختبرتها بشكل كتير كبير، ويمكن هيدي من إيجابيات الأزمة اللي حلت حقيقة بلبنان. من الإيجابيات تبع الأزمة إنه أصبح المزارع، حتى المزارع الصغير، عم بفتش كيف يوفر لحتى يقدر يأمن المصاري، بالنتيجة كيف يأمن المستلزمات الزراعية الأساسية والضرورية. فأصغر المزارعين أصبحوا عم يسألوا وبفتكر وعم يتابعوا مع كتير من المهندسين الزراعيين، مع المنظمات الزراعية اللي عم تشتغل بالقطاع الزراعي، المنظمات المحلية والمنظمات الانترناشونال كمان عم بتساعد على الصعيد اللبناني عموما. أصبح أصغر المزارعين، وأنا بعرف قد ايه اهتمامهم لأنه علاقتي مباشرة مع المزارعين وبتابع معهم مباشرة. بفتكر إن حقيقة بعد الأزمة غير ما قبل الأزمة، والمزارع حقيقة صار عنده الفضولية، ومش بس الفضولية، لأنه بالنتيجة بده يأمن السيولة لكل شغلة بده يعملها، بده يأمن الكاش ماني لكل شغلة بده يدفع حقها، فصار بده يعرف إنه بده يوفر بكل ربع شغلة بده يجيبها ويأمنها. وبالتالي هيدي ساعدت بشكل كتير كبير. وأنا بأكد لك حاليا المزارعين خفضوا كتير أو أصبحوا ودخلوا بمرحلة ترشيد جيد لاستخدام المستلزمات الزراعية بما فيها الأسمدة والمبيدات الزراعية. وأنا بأكد لك فاتورة الدواء وفاتورة الأسمدة حاولوا ينقصوها لأكثر من النص، وحاولوا مثل ما حكيت كمان بمرحلة سابقة إنه يتحولوا نحو مستلزمات زراعية منتجة محليا لحتى يخفضوا كمان بالفاتورة تبعهم. فأصبح المزارع عم يسأل، عم بيتابع، ما عاد بالوضع اللي نحن عم نحكي عنه. وأنا بفتكر هيدي وحدة من الإيجابيات، رغم ما فينا نحكي عن إيجابيات الحقيقة، ولكن وحدة من الإيجابيات إنه صار المزارع عم بيتابع، وهذا بفتكر رح ينعكس إيجابا على حتى نوعية المحصول اللي رح يطلع عنا. وصدقوني بكثير من الحالات أنا كنت روح عند مزارعين تعرفوا أيام الشرك الكبيرة الزراعية هم تبيع المستلزمات الزراعية تبعها بشكل جائر وبشكل كبير. كنا نعمل فحص للتربية يطلع نسبة البوتاس بالتربية 1000 ppm و1250 ppm. شو معناتها؟ معناتها المزارع كان عم بتسلفوا هالشرك الزراعية، ما يبقى عارف شو عم يعمل، يستخدم بشكل جائر هالمبيدات أو الأسمدة الزراعية أو أي مستلزمات زراعية. بفتكر لا، المزارع حاليا صار عم بيروح باتجاه نحو الترشيد الجيد والاستخدام الجيد للمستلزمات الزراعية.
Youmna,
yeah, go ahead, Hania. Go ahead, and then
go ahead. Yeah, I just want to add something. I think also an opportunity. This is one window. It's not like the only opportunity for probably investment is to really tackle the industrialists, you know, the food industrialists, because there are establishments and there is demand. Now we really have more demand on food, especially on locally produced food, because also of the import crisis. So there is really, and before probably it was not that popular to have a kind of like a contract or an arrangement between farmers. I mean, there is in terms of potatoes, there is in terms of wine, for example, but not when it comes to other subsectors, is to have this arrangement between the industrialists and the, let's say, the factories and the farmers to plant the variety that they need. But I think now is an opportunity to explore this further, you know, and to go into really more serious and deeper planning in terms of what could be produced at a good price, at a competitive price, that these industrialists can take and manufacture and add value to it. And then either they sell it to the local market or they export. This is up to them, you know. It depends on their own market, but this could be some form of arrangement with the farmers.
This is obviously because a lot of our attendees are commenting and giving their opinions and asking questions about this. And, you know, this is not something that, obviously it's a conversation that's going to keep going, but I want to basically move it to the programs that can help these youngins. And hopefully we can end this panel on a positive note. All right. Can I, yeah, you're all smiling now, right? Because everybody's, you know, funding and technologies. Georgy, for example, I know that with LUXEED, you participated in regional competitions and the inventions have had multiple patents. Hanya has worked with Berytech on the Agritech program and can also give us a few pointers about the program. Let's just start with Georgy, you know, how your idea started and tell us a little bit about the story. And then Hanya, maybe you can tell us how we can transform an idea into an interesting solution for the agri sector. Let's talk about solution and how we transform them. All right. Let's get into that.
So let me tell you our story to divert you a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is not the first machine we worked on. We started with a tomato grading machine in 2018 for a university course. And we wanted to continue it as a final year project at LAU. So the doctor advised us to do a market research to see if it's needed. And after talking to agriculture experts, especially at Robinson Agri, we found out that there are more alarming problems in agriculture that need our skills in engineering, like weeds. So basically, we applied to the Agritech Hackathon in 2019 with the idea of the laser weeding technology. We envisioned it first on a drone, and then it changed a lot. And with just this idea in mind, we were able to win the first place at the Agritech Hackathon. So let me tell you that without Agritech, I would say that building a hardware startup in general is nearly impossible, let alone a complex robot in agriculture, which is a neglected sector in Lebanon if it weren't for Berytech, in my opinion. But with the expertise of the Agritech team and the financial support, we achieved milestones that we wouldn't dreamed of attaining, whether in startup business or product development. So now we're technically ending the third phase of the program, and we'll be on our own in a bit, but we're ready. We have all the tools to go ahead now.
Okay. How did you, Hanya, do you want to jump in and say, because I know you've had experience also working with Agritech specifically, how to turn an idea?
I think it was, honestly, the change that I saw was also among the universities, because, you know, I mean, it was kind of like, okay, shedding also light on the curricula and what needs to be changed to make agriculture more compatible, you know, with the with the current, let's say, the century and the needs also of the country, and to also help students. And I think this is also what I saw as a change with the different batches of Agritech, is how to make the link with not just in terms of agriculture, but like agriculture with mechanical engineering, agriculture with finance, agriculture with also like chemistry. So the different things that were not only limited to, let's say, processing, which was kind of like the first batch of agriculture, but it really moved on to involve also innovation in other processes as well along the value chain, be it in post-harvest, in marketing, as well as on the production side. So these were the differences in terms of education, kind of like trying to update and changing the curricula to really help the students think of ideas, at the same time be willing to take the risk and try them out before they scale up and turn into successful businesses.
Okay, Georgie, do you want to add to that?
No, well,
you're fine.
Everything is good. If you want me to elaborate a little bit about what we do now, technically.
Yes, please go ahead.
So basically, we have built a robot, and we have a vision of we envision an organic sector, actually, organic crops affordable to consumers, by building a robot that replaces the herbicides and the manual labor. And the robot passes through the fields. We're starting with onions, and we're gonna scale up to other crops, but we had to do a crop prioritization. And we're technically building a robot that passes through the field, and there's a camera that distinguishes between the crop and the weeds, and a laser that hits just the weeds.
Okay.
So basically, we're replacing all the traditional behaviors that the farmers are currently used to. And to answer a previous question that was mentioned, if the farmers are willing to change their behavior, I think that yes, they are willing to, after many interviews we've conducted. But the most important point is that we should have a competitive price, and that's what we've been doing. So we have to price along how much they used to pay for herbicides and manual labor to provide them our service with the robot. So it's a major pain point, the cost. How much are they paying for this new technology? It depends if they are early adopters or small scale farmers. So it mainly varies between farmers.
Did you want to add something?
No.
I want to try to end on a note for the youth, which is really the future of this country and where all the good ideas, hopefully, and future leadership lie. And this is an open question to all our panelists. What do you think the focus should be for the youth to make this sector grow again or move it forward? And is it going to be easy to convince tech savvies that there are opportunities in the agricultural sector? So it's building on what you said, but a little different.
You want me to continue and then end up from my side?
You could, and then I want to hear from each and every one of you.
All right, so I think that the youth should focus on making the sector more sustainable to move into a circular agriculture economy. Briefly, a circular economy has no waste, like renewable energy, when compared to unsustainable sources like fuel and coal. By getting rid of herbicides, for example, LUXEED encourages this circular economy. And in order to reach that, new technologies should be incorporated. There's no running away from technologies like AI and robotics. We should embrace them. We need to minimize the usage of chemicals like pesticides, fertilizers, and water, while maximizing yield in order to sustain this growing population. Technology is inevitable if you want to achieve that. And all engineering fields are able to join hands and work on farming technologies to achieve that. And why am I saying inevitable? Well, consider the impact of just the tractor when it was first introduced. Did you know that without machinery, which is very basic and old, agriculture wouldn't have succeeded in feeding today's population? Let me tell you a statistic about gasoline tractor only.
Gasoline sector, yeah.
Yeah. Before the gasoline farm tractor in the early 90s, the average farm grew food for 2 other people only. Today, this same average farm can feed as many as 130 people. And moving forward, the trends are precision farming and IoT, robotics, organic products, hydroponics, and vertical farming. This is the future, in my opinion. And farmers of the future will be plumbers, electricians, and data analysts watching over their robots and maintaining them. This is relevant for the youth because agriculture is no more equivalent to a mule and a horse. It is equivalent to the very technology that we seek to learn in universities. Well, so this is from my side.
All right. Kanj, I know you like to tell us things, you know, finish this on a positive note with the youth, will you?
Finish this on a positive note. I actually was very positive in what I said.
we decide that. No, go ahead. Yes.
I mean, pushing people to advocate for somehow what is their right and the role of policymaker in taking responsibility, I think is important. On the youth, part of it is also what they should do. We need to trust. Unfortunately, we have institutions and policymakers who do not trust youth and who do not trust women as well. Yeah, it's complicated in the sense that it's complicated to form businesses, it's complicated to form cooperative, it's complicated to engage in any kind of business activities. So we need to ease for youth people, for young people, their ability to invest, to access credit, and to form cooperative. I am confident in that the future is for them taking over family business farms, taking over agricultural structure, cooperative structure that are fair in the way they act and interact together, and they do carry also soft value in a way for the environment, which is very, very important. And we did not talk about it today. The people use that are aware of the environmental problem and do produce in an environmental matter. Georgy was talking about organic agriculture, for example, and options. But for these things to happen, we do need private and state institutions who facilitate and who trust in their capacity and facilitate their ability to invest. Yani a lot of work has been done. Berytech has done a lot of work. Tripoli Entrepreneur Club in Tripoli has done also a lot of effort to support youth entrepreneurs. We need to build and capitalize on this initiative. But again, Anna, this initiative, as much as important they are, and Berytech is a very, very important and large initiative in the country, their effort will be cannot be at full potential if the state do not step in to reform all the institutional and policy and regulation obstacle that stop the capacity to use of building cooperative. I can name, I'm not going to, but I can name 10 initiatives that have tried to build cooperative that are youth-led, that came from the last 2 years and that were not provided for a permit. Yeah, that does exist. It's difficult to go and institutionalize things. So this is it's a responsibility of policymakers to facilitate youth entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, and economy solidaire and fair and environmentally friendly initiatives as well.
Right, Hanya, in closing, and then we'll go to Charbel.
Okay, so what I think is first for youth, I have something to say, like, do not take agriculture as a sector by its own. Think of it as part of an overall, economy of the country. Think of its interlinkages with other sectors. Be responsible towards the natural resources, be responsible towards the use of, also of labor, provide them with decent working conditions if you want. And I think a very important thing is do not take no for an answer. Just go out there, try it, and don't be afraid to, and don't be just discouraged by the word like, no, it doesn't work. I mean, you can take advice. People have been there, they have expertise, use their expertise, but also just, take the initiative and move forward.
All right, I like that. I like it a lot. I want to end with you, Charbel.
اوكي، انا بالنسبه للشباب اكيد رح شجعهم بشكل كثير كبير للاستثمار بقطاع الزراعه. ليه الاستثمار بقطاع الزراعه؟ انا بقول لهم لانه هيدا القطاع الوحيد اللي حيأمن نوع من حد ادنى من الامن الغذائي والحد الأدنى من الأمن الغذائي هو رح يأمن الحد الأدنى من الاستقرار الاقتصادي، لأنه كل الاقتصاد اللي مبني فقط على الخدمات والاشياء الريعيه رح تكون منا مستدامه، هي اشياء ممكن تكون جيده بتدخل مداخيل الى البلاد، ولكن هي منا الاساس. الزراعه والقطاعات الانتاجيه هي الاساس، ونحن لازم نعتمد عليها ونطورها لا شك ما فينا نضلنا مثل ما حكينا بالزراعات التقليديه، التوجه نحو الزراعات الحديثه، التوجه نحو الزراعات المنتجه، الزراعات الكثيفه اللي ممكن تزيدنا بالانتاجيه، الهيدروبونكس، الزراعات الكثيفه بالاشجار المثمره. هيدي كلها بتزلنا، اول شغله بتزلنا بالانتاجيه، بتزلنا بنوعيه، بتحسننا بنوعيه المنتج، ممكن تشيل عنا كم كبير من المخاطر البيئيه اللي ممكن تتعرض لها الزراعه عموما من العوامل الطبيعيه، وبالتالي هيدي كلها حوافز ومحفزات اذا بدنا للشباب انه يستثمروا بقطاع الزراعه. وهذا اللي بحب اقوله. ميرسي.
A big thank you to our panelists and our attendees today. Thank you for taking part in this discussion. I just want to please our speakers, if you could just put your emails into the chat boxes. So I know Kanj did it, but for Charbel, Hanya, and Georgy, if any of our attendees want to reach out to you to continue the discussion, ask for advice, or maybe one day collaborate, you never know. Thank you for doing that. I just want to remind you that the Agritech Accelerator, again, a yearly 3-phase program, the applications for the program are open till January 31st. So please apply if you feel you have a good idea and you need, some assistance to grow it, to scale it up. This is not the last session of the series. There is another session next Tuesday at the same time at 12:30 with a whole new range of panelists. My name is Youmna Naufal. I'm a Beirut-based journalist here, and I was your moderator for today. I also I'll put in my email for all of you. Please keep this conversation going. Reach out to any of our panelists or me if you want to be connected, if you have questions. Do not be afraid. Thank you so much for interacting and for attending. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll be able to do this live and see you very soon. That's it. Thank you, Charbel. Thank you, Hanya. Thank you, Georgy. And thank you, Dr. Kanj.
Thank you. Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you, Chahal.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.